You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
System.
Okay, because well, when I say how, thanks. How's she going? I mean, that's super Canadian. No, how's she going, eh? I'm doing good, thanks.
Hello? Hello? Oh.
Muted.
We'll start the teleconference in a minute or two.
No, how's she going, eh? I'm doing good, thanks.
You know, I just can't tell that you're Canadian today.
No, how's she going? No, how's she going, eh? I'm doing good, thanks.
You know, I just can't tell that you're Canadian. It just
The recording has started.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this week's Impact Wrestling Media Teleconference. This is Ross Foreman. This week it gives me great privilege to welcome the belt collector. He is, of course, the reigning, defending, undisputed Impact World Champion, the Impact Grand Champion, and no doubt a few other titles in his arsenal as well. Austin Aries, welcome to the teleconference.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Well, we can hear you perfect. Austin, how are things going for you?
Not too bad. Just got done with a good workout, and now just enjoying some of the beautiful weather out here in Vegas.
All righty. Well, Austin, a lot to talk about, and let's get right to it. Sunday night, April 22nd in Orlando, Florida, you will be in the main event at Redemption, live on pay-per-view against two of the biggest stars of Lucha Underground. You put the World Championship on the line against Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. Your thoughts?
I mean, listen, it's going to be an exciting matchup. These two guys right now, some of the most talked about competitors going. Obviously got to step in the ring with them during the joint show between Impact Wrestling and Lucha Underground. And as I said in my promo that I, spoke about at House of Hardcore. Pentagon came out victorious. Those guys showed up. They left it all in the ring. They're professionals, and they deserve an opportunity. So we're going to give it to them at Redemption on the 22nd, and should be a hell of a matchup.
Also, let's talk about these two guys. Pentagon, submission specialist, 5 Sides of Fear, the breaker of bones. Then there's Phoenix, a high-flying sensation. Pentagon and Phoenix, they've waged wars against each other, but they've also aligned with each other. They are the Lucha Brothers. How do you combat these two?
Well, as you said, they both have different styles, and obviously they both know each other very well. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm a big concern that, considering that they are brothers, I know they don't always see eye to eye, but, in some ways I may feel like I'm a bit outnumbered. I'm used to having a target on my back, but here I'm going to have two guys who know each other very well, bringing two different styles, and I'm sure both of them would like to walk away as the Impact World Champion.
Austin, I have to ask you about the mental game going into this. You stepped in the ring with them at WrestleCon, but you did not come out with the victory. Sure, you didn't get pinned or you didn't submit, but you didn't win. You don't have a lot of time to prepare for this. How are you feeling mentally going into this?
I feel good. Listen, things change. And, that's part of life. That's inevitable. And, part of what makes a great professional wrestler, part of what makes us a successful person in general is being able to, move when you need to move, be able to, be limber, agile, and, roll with the punches, so to speak. So, listen, I'm feeling good. It was a really successful weekend in New Orleans. I came out of that feeling relatively healthy. I've got a nice week now or two to recharge, get myself mentally and physically prepared. And, I expect to walk into the 22nd ready to rock and roll.
All righty. Austin, before we open up for media questions, we do want to ask you, though, will you be reaching out over the next 10, 11 days to others on the Impact roster, Sanjay Dutt, maybe even Sami Callihan, who've stepped in the ring in the past with Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix, just for additional insight, tips, suggestions?
No, not really, because I don't really necessarily trust any of those people. I'll do my own. I'll do my own studying on my own. I trust my eyes, and there may be a person or two that I confide in, but for the most part, I like to keep that stuff close to the vest.
All righty, Austin, I appreciate it. We're going to get going with some media questions here. Media, I ask, once again, as always, please identify yourself, your media outlet, and please limit it to one question at a time. To get in queue for questions, please hit *6.
Q&A session has started. To ask your question, please press *6.
Austin, Harry here from Pro Wrestling 247.
Speak up a little bit, sir.
Oh, this is Harry from NBC Sports Radio's Pro Wrestling 247 on demand.
Hey, Harry.
Off, thank you for the great performance at Lucha vs. Impact in New Orleans last Friday. And my question is, with the ever-changing state of things recently in the world of professional wrestling, now that Lucha Underground talent will be a part of the main event at Redemption on the 22nd, have you considered challenging for the Lucha Underground Championship?
I'll be honest, it hasn't really crossed my mind. We'll one thing at a time, Harry. I got a big matchup here, obviously. I was kind of preparing for one direction. Now I'm having to kind of prepare for another direction. So, listen, once I walk out of there, the 22nd, still the Impact champion, then maybe I can start thinking about challenging for the, Lucha title. But right now I'm just going to take care of what's in front of me.
Ryan Ryder for Main Event Radio. Austin Aries, your thoughts on the departure of Alberto El Patron?
It's unfortunate, but we're moving on, and, all things being equal, I thought the matchup I ended up having at the joint show ended up being more challenging, and more exciting. So we're moving forward. We're looking forward to the 22nd and, really trying to capitalize on some, again, some things that maybe a year or two ago we wouldn't be talking about in the wrestling landscape. And, we're going to have a couple of the top stars of Lucha Underground, competing for the Impact World Championship. That's pretty exciting.
Any other companies that you'd like to partner with in the future?
I'm looking to work with any company that that's interested. I've talked to a number of companies. Obviously, you've seen me pop up other places like Ring of Honor. Had discussions with the NWA. Have reached out some to New Japan. But that being said, I can only be so many places at once, and I can only represent so many companies at once. And right now, my focus is on representing Impact Wrestling the best that I can.
Hi, Austin. It's James over at the Wrestling Epicenter. It's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thanks,
I
James.
wanted to ask you about the weekend that we just had where you were a part of multiple shows. I mean, it just seemed like it was just a raging success for professional wrestling. As a wrestler who's been around the indies and now has been around whatever we call the current wave of things going on, how do you feel about the current landscape of professional wrestling?
Oh man, it's really unlike anything I've seen since I started, and it's a beautiful thing. And listen, first and foremost, we have to give the credit, because if WWE wasn't running WrestleMania with 100,000 wrestling fans all convening in the same location, what happened in New Orleans wouldn't be possible. That being said, the fact of the matter is that outside of that, the WWE bubble, there's wrestling fans that want to consume all different types of forms of professional wrestling. And the awesome thing is now is that there's so many companies that are providing quality professional wrestling. There's so much talent out there. And you can see there was so many successful shows that were run over the course of those 3-4 days. Everybody I talked to, we're having a very good financial weekend. For a lot of these guys, the biggest weekends of the year for them. And that's just a great thing for wrestling, man, because at the end of the day, you want as many people who love this art form to be able to make a good living as we can. And the more successful and profitable places are, the more competition there is, the more those spots are available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Austin. It's Neil Rogers from Calling Sports Magazine. How are you today?
Great, thank you.
Good to hear. My question is, most people will never experience being a world champion, and yet for you it seems to be something that you do every other day. How does it feel to be regarded as one of the best in the world?
I don't know. I guess I don't really think about it in those terms. That's where I rank as far as best or worst is that's people's opinion. I just try to go out there every time and just deliver the best of my capabilities with whatever I'm given. And I feel like the more I'm able to contribute, creatively, the more I'm able to contribute from a mental aspect into what do I do. It seems to be even better. So, listen, I always appreciate the opportunity to be someone who is a key figure in a promotion, to be someone who can, be an ambassador. And so right now I'm very lucky to be in a position that, especially with the landscape that wrestling's in right now, to find myself in the spot to be representing a number of companies and also trying to, represent this mindset of companies working together to continue to build on this momentum that the professional wrestling world has right now.
Thank you.
Hi, Austin. It's Lee Med from Live Radio over here in the UK. Thanks for taking the time this morning.
Sure.
It was just a very quick one. Obviously, you are the collector of belts. You perform all around the world. And here in the UK, we're very excited about Impact Wrestling returning to the UK for the first time in a number of years. But as a performer, where do you get the most enjoyment of performing? Is it Asia? Is it the US? Or is it over in Europe?
I don't know that it's maybe a geography thing, right? Because, when I go over to England, the fans there are they got so much energy. That's always been one of the great places for Impact Wrestling. One of our great, fan bases has been in the UK, and those tours every year were always so successful. Going to Australia, those fans over there, they're historically they haven't had a lot of great wrestling over there. They're starting to get some big names that maybe people are really excited to see, and so that's a great market too. But I'll be honest, I think there's different types of wrestling crowds, and I think that we have our what we call our smart audience that maybe try to analyze and break down the art form a little more, and that's where they get their entertainment value. And then you have what you just kind of consider just kind of your mainstream fan who just really maybe you're more your family oriented fan that just wants to come to the show and they don't understand the ins and outs necessarily but they just want to cheer and they want to boo and they just want to have a good time, right? And if you're asking me, like, I really appreciate going out in front of those types of crowds and just taking them on that emotional roller coaster of cheering and booing and screaming and yelling, and maybe not breaking down my technique of everything that I do in the ring, or time on matches, or decide how many stars it warrants.
So we're looking forward to having you back over here in the UK. Thanks for taking the time, my friend.
Thank you.
Austin, we have an email question from Jerome. He asked, have you ever seen a move or a spot that made you think, I wish I came up with that?
Ooh. Off the top of my head, I mean, I know there are. I just can't think of what they were off the top of my head. Let me try to think. So, how about the running drop kick in the corner? Oh wait, maybe I did kind of come up with that. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, there's been some over the years. A lot of times it's not necessarily a maneuver, but maybe something creatively from a psychological standpoint that maybe you go, that was pretty clever. Maybe I wish I would have came up with that one. But as far as maneuvers in and of themselves, I think more likely I see something, especially what some of these guys do nowadays, and it's not so much I wish I would have came up with it. It's I wish I could do that.
Hi, Austin. This is BQ from the Impact Lounge. I feel like you're becoming one of the more respected and obviously well-traveled stars in wrestling. And one thing that Impact hasn't had much success in over the years, as say maybe a Ring of Honor, is being able to sign some of the hotter indie names who have that potential to generate buzz and really put butts in seats. You mentioned being an ambassador. Are you hoping to be, maybe a liaison between Impact and other wrestlers who have previously may not have the interest in coming to the company for one reason or another?
Yeah, I think I'm someone that can do that because I think, I've had a history with this company. I've been here through different regime changes and things of that sort. And I think the people who know me the best know that I wouldn't be back here if a lot of what the old guard and the old hat kind of was perpetuating was still going on. And I think people, whether they like me or they don't like me, know I'm a pretty straight shooter. So I think from those regards, I can give people a pretty unbiased opinion of what I think is happening right now in Impact Wrestling. I think, and I'll be honest, I didn't think I'd be saying this a year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, but right now I think from just an overall cultural standpoint, from a locker room standpoint, from coming to work and having fun and being relaxed, taking our job seriously, but not looking over our shoulder, not walking on eggshells, not being stressed out, not, and really having some creative freedoms. I think this might be the best locker room in wrestling. And because you have this great mix of guys like myself who have kind of been there, done that, who are hungry for their own reasons to prove themselves. Then you have a bunch of younger guys who are also, getting their first taste of maybe a national spotlight to step up, and they're hungry. And then you have a whole new team, coming in from, Scott and Don and Sanjay and the guys, that really want to prove themselves and really do want to make this different and make this something that can be great and that people can come and have a good living. And we're going to create our own culture and our own structure here and our own way to do business and our own way to have relationships with companies, have relationships with talent to create something that's appealing and unique that, when you talk about being able to sign guys that have potential or be able to keep guys who have some value, if you can offer them a work environment that it's very hard to find in this industry as far as, be able to make good money, be able to keep your intellectual properties, be able to come to work and have a good time and not be walking on eggshells, looking over your shoulder constantly, having some input on your direction, your character, who you are, this is the place to be. And I want to keep building that so that this is the place to be to give people an opportunity and an option who don't want to have to do it the other way.
Thank you.
Hey, Austin. This is Viju from Sportskeeda. How are you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Great. We had a chance to catch up with your friend Jimmy Jacobs on one of these teleconferences, and he said that the best Austin Aries is the heel Austin Aries. Is that something you're looking forward to doing in the future?
I may need you to repeat that one more time. I'm getting my Google Translator. Hold on. Can please repeat one more
Hello.
time?
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, we had a chance to catch up with your friend Jimmy Jacobs, and he said that you are at your best as a heel. Is that something you're looking forward to doing in the future?
You know, as far as that goes, you know, right now, you know, it's working for me to you know, I try to always just kind of be myself, and I don't really try to you know, skew too much one way or the other. But yeah, there's certain times I kind of dial up my disdain for people, and you know, but right now I'm enjoying, you know, kind of, to be quite honest, I'm enjoying being embraced by the people, and for what I'm trying to do and the success I'm having. And for right now, I think that's you know, that's the way to go. And you know, what happens in the future happens in the future. When it's time to put my thumb in somebody's eye, it may happen, and it will be fun.
Hi, Austin. Ryan Bowman from thegorillaposition.com. You were talking about having freedom, and I've heard from a few people in the company that, especially on promos, they feel like they've been given a lot more range to kind of explore things. How important is it to have your quote-unquote own voice when you're trying to communicate with the crowd and get your point across?
I mean, for me, it's very important because, you know, I would say this: if you strip away everything that makes Austin Aries unique, which is really my voice, my wit, you know, maybe some of my moveset, maybe, you know, just some of these things that make me unique. If you strip that away, I'm just kind of an older, small white dude, you know, and there's not a lot to work with there, right? So for me, it's important to be able to go out and do what's made me successful for 17, 18 years, because it's been a journey of figuring out what that is for me, you know, and to change it up at this point in the game, to me, it's not getting full value out of me, not using me for my full potential. And but I think for everybody listening, when we go out there, I'm going to fail or I'm going to succeed, I want it to be because of my own merits, right? You know, and we all have to work within guidelines. We all have to work together, and there needs to be a certain level of continuity and quality control. But I think, you know, as the people kind of running and directing creative, as you kind of look at your landscape of your roster, you kind of identify the guys that you need to maybe produce a little less because they can do them better than you can do them. And then the guys that are still finding their way, that are younger, that really do need the guidance and the help to kind of help create who they are and find that. And so you can't treat everybody the same in that regard. And I think right now with Impact, finding that balance has been something that's really helped us in allowing, you know, guys the freedom to have their voice out there, and then helping shape and direct where it needs to be shaped and directed.
Also, we're going to go to a email question from Jordan, who asked, would you consider rejoining the X Division, and who is your all-time, basically wants to know your Mount Rushmore of X Division talent?
Oh, boy. Would I rejoin the X Division? I mean, I'll rejoin any division if it makes sense, right? So I certainly have no problem with that. Right now, I'm just trying to do something I haven't done before, and as we know, I've done a lot in the X Division, and with that, I probably would have to put myself on there somewhere. But I think you know, before myself, you have to go to, you know, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels. I think I think those three guys, and kind of when they got the spotlight to do their three-way program, really elevated the X Division. You know, and I don't know how many guys you can add, because you can add a couple other guys on there too for different reasons that have been important to the division over the years. So, but if I'm going to name four, I guess I'll go with those four.
Hi, Austin. Stephanie from Steercha Magazine in UK. Hope you're all right. I'm coming a little late in the call because I had technical issues, but I hope I'm not going to ask you a question that was already asked. So you're going to have a great opportunity again Pentagon Dark and Ray Phoenix on Redemption. But Pentagon Dark is the Lucha Underground champion. And I was asking myself, are you interested to work with Lucha Underground, and why not become Lucha Underground champion? And
well,
if you allow,
continue, sorry.
I wanted to wish you a few days earlier an happy birthday.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Yeah, someone touched on that earlier about that, and you know, you make an interesting point that he is the Lucha Underground champion, and it'd be interesting if maybe I made him put up his title, in this three-way. That would be fair, right? Or at least somewhat fair. But I'm interested in working with Lucha Underground. I think right now it's a good relationship for both companies, and right now as the champion, that would put me squarely in the mix to not only be working with them, but sure, I would challenge for the title in the right scenario. But right now, my job is to make sure I keep mine on the 22nd of April. But hey, if Pentagon wants to put up his title, I certainly wouldn't oppose. I'd like to collect another belt.
Hi, Mr. Aries. This is Marcus Green from Total Wrestling Magazine.
Hello, Marcus.
Hi. Obviously, one of the many shows that we've seen you appear on WrestleMania weekend was Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, which you were great on commentary, by the way, pun intended.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, obviously, that's one of the companies that you returned to. You had a great stint there. Great title reigns and whatnot. But you now kind of getting involved around, obviously, having your sights set, now that you're the belt collector, around regaining or for the first time attaining the Ring of Honor Television Championship.
Exactly.
My question is, obviously, that one of the benefits now that Impact has is having all these working relationships with different wrestling companies. My question is, have you seen some of the positive changes since you returned to Ring of Honor in that company that you've seen in Impact? And if so, if it was possible in the future, would you like to see those two companies collaborate?
Well, obviously, I mean, going back to Ring of Honor, just, stirring the pot a little bit. And, yeah, I've never had the television championship there. And, what better way to make an impact as the Impact World Champion than to be on their television? It's kind of the way I thought about it. But, yeah, obviously their success right now, they're almost 6,000 people, in New Orleans. I think their business is as good as it's ever been. So, right now, I'm trying to go around and do what I can do, and it's been cool to have an opportunity to kind of do some stuff with Ring of Honor, to kind of make people scratch their head a little bit and wonder what's going on, and I think that's good for wrestling. And I think right now, as far as how much they do or don't do business now or in the future, I'm sure those companies will discuss that and figure out what's in the best interest for both of them. But right now, if I can kind of be a common thread that helps maybe, build some bridges, then that's what I'd like to do. So you start calling me the bridge builder.
Also, I have an email question from Septile Project, kind of an interesting two-part question. What do you think music in a wrestler's entrance, what does that impact have on wrestling as a whole and that character?
It's huge, right? I think it plays a lot into it. I think it can be huge, right? I think that, there's certain songs you hear. I know as a kid growing up, when they still used, back then you have to worry about copyrights and things like that, but when I heard certain songs, whether it was Eye of the Tiger or Iron Man, I immediately thought of wrestlers, so you start to identify, and obviously music's a huge part of culture, so whenever you cross over like that, it just adds to the impact and the overall emotion. So, and it's also for the wrestler, you got to think of like when you're going for a workout, you want something that gets you pumped up or gets you in whatever zone you need to be in to walk out there and perform. And then for the fans, they hear that iconic sound, whether it's the glass shattering or whatever it may be, and it obviously elicits an emotion for them. So music's a huge part of wrestling.
Hi, Austin. This is Raj Giri with WrestlingInc.com.
Hello. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you.
Good. I just wanted to ask you, with the WrestleCon event on Friday, about when did you realize that Alberto wasn't going to be there? And do you feel that affected the match at all with Phoenix and Pentagon, and or if at all?
You know, it was sometime during the event because I don't always see Alberto a lot once the event starts. You know, sometimes he may be off in his own area. So, you know, but, you know, with him being a professional as such as he is and everybody else involved, I wasn't overly concerned. But as the event was going, I did inquire if anybody had, you know, seen him or where his location was. And that's when, you know, we decided that, or when we realized that he hadn't arrived yet. So as far as it affecting the match, I don't really think so. You know, listen, both those guys are hell of talents. And for me, you know, it was just trying to, you know, again, change gears. And, you know, first time really working with either of these guys and get in the ring with them. So, but I don't really think it affected the match so much. I was really happy with, you know, with what we went out there and did, other than obviously the outcome, because I would have liked to have won, because then maybe I wouldn't find myself in this situation now.
Austin, your answer seems to follow into a question from Andre Corbiel of WrestlingWithWrestling.com, who first apologized he could not be on the call, and then he wanted to know, there were obvious signs of animosity between the Pentagon and Phoenix at the WrestleCon match. How do you plan to use that natural animosity between the two to your advantage on the 22nd at Redemption?
Very smartly, very intelligently, which includes not laying the whole plan out for you right here on this teleconference. But yeah, listen, obviously these guys have a history and there's a lot of emotion involved due to their relationship. So I have to manipulate and use everything to my advantage that I can, including that. And that, you know, that's going to be part of my game plan.
Hello, Austin. This is Nick Hausman from WrestleZone.com. Thanks so much for taking the time today.
You got it, Nick. Thanks for being here.
So former Impact Wrestling champion Kurt Angle decided to name drop TNA on Monday Night Raw and told Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn that maybe they should ask TNA about going there or inquire about that. What did you think about WWE name dropping the former initials for the company?
I didn't think a whole lot of it. I mean, I think every wrestling company is hiring. They've obviously done quite a bit of hiring themselves over the last 6 months. I think that's what wrestling companies do. Someone should probably give them a memo and update them that, you know, TNA no longer exists. So their writing team was a little outdated on the joke. But, hey, it's cool, man. Yeah, we are hiring. If you come here, like, we won't test you and take money out of your pocket for smoking marijuana. You know, there's a lot of perks to coming here. So, yeah, you know, it's all about what you want out of for your career and for your life. And we're trying to provide something that's an alternative, you know. And the funny thing is that you're asking that question. It's one of the most talked about things that happen on that show.
Yep, that's why I asked the question. Thank you very much for taking it.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Austin. This is Mios from the German site wrestling-infos.de. It's a pleasure to talk to you today and that you have taken the time for us. My question is related to your opinion, and you've also published a book which is quite successful, as I heard. How much did the veganism help you in your wrestling style or generally in life?
I think it's just, it's a lifestyle choice, and I think it's, you know, what I've come to notice when people kind of make that switch or make that connection, it's just about viewing things differently, viewing life a little differently, viewing your role on the planet, and just kind of looking at things from a different scope and a different lens. You know, our dietary choices and the way we think about animals and how we use them, or you know, if we love them or if we, you know, exploit them, is really a learned behavior, and it's kind of indoctrinated into us. It's not necessarily a choice. So if you can kind of disconnect from that decision that was made for you and see that a DOG is the same as a PIG, same as a CAT, same as a COW, and that they all should deserve respect, then it just kind of changes your whole worldview and how you see things. It's a little more of a compassionate mindset.
Hi, Austin. It's Lee Med from Live Radio again. I'm just thinking, you've been entertaining all throughout your career, but one of the things I really enjoyed was the time you spent as part of the Dirty Heels. Of course, you had some great success picking up the tag team titles with that. But over the past maybe about 18 months, there seems to have been a disappearance of true tag team performers. Do you feel that's something that is missing just now, or will it come back around in the world that the way the wrestling world is cyclical?
I think there's still some. I still think there's good tag team performers and good tag teams that are, for the most part, strictly tag teams. I think what's happened is that with the way wrestling's going, sometimes we don't keep tag wrestling to just the tag division because we put a lot of other tag matches together with singles guys and things of that sort. Because we have so many matches and television and things of the sort. But I still think there's a lot of good tag team specialists out there, and it's a little different psychology. It's a different style of match, and I hope it doesn't go away because it was some of my favorite stuff to grow up and watch.
How easy is it to jump between that singles and that tag mindset? As you just said there, sometimes we get the single guys thrown together.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I really enjoy tag wrestling. I'm actually kind of looking for a partner that I think I'd gel with, and maybe to do something like that. I'm someone who I like to think isn't necessarily a singles wrestler or a tag wrestler. I'm just a wrestler, and I can hopefully do whatever style I need to do.
Cheers.
Jim Barcelona, MiamiHerald.com. Austin, with Redemption coming up, the big pay-per-view, can you talk about if you were disappointed that you won't have your first match with Alberto Del Rio, and just any excitement with having this three-way and how you're preparing to do battle in a three-way rather than just a one-on-one?
Yeah, I think. Hey, Jim, I think it's both, right? I think I'm extremely disappointed that I'm not going to be able to get in there with Alberto. I was really looking forward to that, and but as you said, now switching gears, moving forward, I'm really excited for this new matchup, and it is a whole different matchup. It's a whole different strategy. It's a whole different emotion. There was some animosity with me and Alberto. There was, obviously there's a size difference between the two of us, and stylistically there's a difference. So now this is a whole different game plan, and this match is going to be completely different, and it's going to be probably a lot more faster paced, a lot more exciting, a lot more unpredictable. When you add a third element in there. So, sometimes things work out in funny ways, and in some ways I feel like maybe what we're going to have here on the 22nd is actually going to be even better than what was going to happen.
Thank you.
Austin Harry here again from NBC Sports Radio's Pro Wrestling 247 on Demand. Now, in January, I'll be turning 50, and I've noticed that I began to gain a little weight over the last few years. I've never been a eater. However, I'm at that age when the body's metabolism begins to change. What benefits would I notice if I were to adopt a vegan diet, and what would you recommend, if anything, to aid me in doing so?
Oh, man. Without really knowing your diet now, but the benefits would be significant, and you would see them probably within the first few weeks. Just as far as fat loss, you're going to completely reduce your cholesterol intake, which will do a lot of things for you, amongst other things. A lot of people say they feel an instant surge in energy. They feel better after they eat. They don't feel heavy and lethargic. There's a lot of things, that you'll feel. I think the whole thing is, people say, is it hard? And it is hard until you make that commitment and decide it's something important to you. And for a lot of people like yourself, it comes at a time when they're faced with the reality of getting older, and now they feel like they have to, but it's never too late to start. And I would just, again, we're in the information age. So there's a lot of people like myself who are thriving, living plant-based diets. They all have their social medias. They're sharing the information. So go out there and seek it out and give yourself the information, the tools to start on your own journey, and start slow and just consistent. And, don't worry about being perfect. Just worry about keep making progress.
On that note, where would I be able to locate your book so that I could purchase it for more advice?
Right now, you can go to my new website, theaustinaries.com. And if you go there, you can get all the information. You can buy my book from there. It'll direct you to everything you need to know. And you can also see some recipes and some blogs and some tips on healthy eating, and also find out, where I'm going to be coming up here with my schedule and everything.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Riju from Sportskeeda again. My question is, because everyone wrestles a much faster-paced style these days, do you see a distinction between the heavyweight division and the X division anymore?
Not necessarily. I think there's plenty of guys who would be classified as, quote unquote heavyweights, in all the companies right now that wrestle more of what we, historically thought of as the X division style, or, so there really isn't a huge distinction stylistically, and that can be said for all the different, and the things with the X division is, I don't know if there's, unlike other places, there's no weight limits on it. So, the definition of what it is to me has always been a little confusing, but then again, it's very important as a secondary title within the company. But yeah, I think there's more and more big guys that are working more of that X division style, and who knows, maybe they'll get mixed back in there, in the future.
Hi, it's Neil Rogers from Calling Sports Magazine again. My question this time, what are your thoughts on gender wrestling? Do you think there's a place for it in today's era? Do you think it's something that is becoming more prevalent?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a place for it somewhere because it's happening. So people are doing it. I think that it's a slippery slope, and personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. That's something I would intentionally go out and seek out. But I also understand that how my entertainment value of wrestling or my vision of what wrestling is different than other people's, and I can respect that other people see it differently. And if there wasn't a market for it, it wouldn't be happening. So, but I think it's a slippery slope, especially in today's landscape where we're so sensitive with equality and treatment of women and all these other things, that be very careful when we blow the line for what our art form. It's a delicate balance.
Austin, hi, this is Tony Quant calling from the Mirror Sport in the UK. Hope you're well.
Thank you, Tony.
My question was around the upcoming Impact announcements that they are bringing the live shows back to the UK in September. And I didn't notice that your name was actually part of the press release. I just wondered whether you'll be taking part in that tour, and how excited, if so, how excited you are to be returning to the UK with Impact.
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope that, come September, if I'm still in a position that, I would be a part of that tour. And if I am, it's something I'll definitely be looking forward to. As I said earlier, the UK Impact fans have always been some of our most loyal and our most enthusiastic. So, I'm really excited that the company's heading back there.
Austin, we have a question via email from Shubham. He wants to know, what is your favorite career moment in Impact?
Favorite career moment? I mean, obviously winning the world title is going to be a special moment for any wrestler, and that certainly was. I think that funny enough, when I lost the world title to Jeff Hardy in Phoenix, that was a pretty memorable moment as well. For a number of reasons. So those two kind of stand out probably as two of the more memorable.
Hi, Austin. Stephanie for Stitcher Magazine again. You've been involved in 3 different events during WrestleCon for Crash, for House of Hardcore and Impact versus Lucha Underground. Is there any differences? What are the differences, the things between these three different events? What are the good things? What are the differences? Can you tell us about these three different events and what they are bringing to you? Thank you.
Sure. I think you're asking me the difference between the different places I worked in New Orleans. So that was my first time working with Crash Lucha Libre, and obviously they had a good turnout for an afternoon show, and that was my first time working that, and I really haven't worked a lot of lucha shows, so that was something kind of cool to see a little different style and see what they do, and then the first time that I got to step in the ring with Pentagon. So and then moving forward, we did the joint show that evening, which obviously was a really cool experience. The locker room was great. Guys were working, it was a really kind of laid back atmosphere, but guys wanted to go out there and really show what they had. So, I thought that show was awesome, very, very successful. Then kind of dipped in and did a little something with Ring of Honor, and I don't have to, say a whole lot about that. Almost 6,000 people. The crowd was hot all night. They had, a who's list of people there, and it was a successful night for them. And then House of Hardcore, kind of the heart and soul of the pro wrestling right now. And that show I think started at 11:30 at night, and I think my match ran about 1:30 a.m. So the fact that the fans were there and they were invested and they were excited to be there, and that the guys all went out there at that time of night after a couple of long days and just put on a hell of a performance, and the whole team, up and down, the announcers, the camera guys, the whole thing, right? So, it's so as much as there's differences, right now what you're seeing is more and more common threads that are running throughout all these different promotions that are thriving and are successful, and that's what I like to see.
Thank you.
Hey, Austin, this is BQ from the Impact Lounge again. I was fortunate enough to be at the Impact and Lucha Underground show, and I noticed there are a lot of fans there who missed the memo on the collaboration over competition concept that Impact is pushing, and it made me realize there's still a lot of work to do to win over a certain part of the wrestling audience. What do you think is the biggest hurdle, biggest obstacle right now in winning over that portion of the audience who continues to be negative and sour towards the product?
Just stay the course, consistency, and time. Again, as I, it's just going to take time. Like there's a lot of goodwill that has to be earned back, and so that's fine. I expect people to be skeptical. I expect now when I walk out places as the Impact World Champion that, for right now, that might start getting me some negative reactions. That's cool. I understand. That's fine. We'll stay the course. We'll keep doing what we're doing, and over time, I will keep changing minds and changing opinions. That's all you can do, because I kind of believe in the formula right now and what's being cultivated. So I think if we just let that continue to grow and trust in that, we'll be fine.
Hi, Austin. Raj Gary with WrestlingEpicenter.com again.
What's up, Raj?
What's up? I wanted to know, with Impact, they've brought in a lot of new talent. I wanted to know who some of your favorite up-and-coming talent in Impact are, and who could you see being in that main event scene sooner than later?
Well, I mean, obviously Brian Cage has stepped in, and it's hard not to notice that guy, and a guy that I've been in the ring with now a number of times. And obviously, if you look at his toolbox, it's overflowing. So he's a guy that with opportunity and time can make a huge impact, which, I guess it's a bad pun at this point, but, he's one that stands out, looking at in the X division. I think a guy like Trevor Lee, a guy who was in the X division that can maybe, branch out of that. Ishimori, I've enjoyed what he's done. I haven't seen a lot of Desmond Xavier yet, but I hear good things about him. He was out with over in Japan. So hopefully when he gets back, we'll get to see what he's about. And there's guys I'm missing. There's guys like Sami Callihan, who's not necessarily a young guy, but who's starting to make some waves and make some noise, and people are talking about him. Eli Drake, I still think is tremendous talent, and I still think that for him, I think that the best is still ahead of him. So, and there's people I'm missing. I mean, and that just shows right now that there's a good collection of talent there. And I think what people need to understand is that before a lot of these household names that you're wearing their T-shirts now and you're huge fans of, they all started somewhere and they all had to make their names somewhere. And right now, there's a landscape and impact where a lot of these guys made their names. That opportunity is now opening up for a whole new generation of guys, and there's a lot of talent right there that are going to step up and be the next generation of household names that we're talking about.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Austin. It's Neil Rogers from Calling Sports Magazine again. You wrestle for Defiant Wrestling in Newcastle, where I'm based, and I was wondering how many of the guys there or the performers there do you think deserve an opportunity to showcase themselves on somewhat bigger like Impact Wrestling? Is there anyone that you've seen that you're particularly impressed with?
Yeah, Newcastle, one word. I knew that, but whoever did my website missed the typo. I almost got hammered for it on social media, so I had to fire the guy. Just kidding. Especially with talking with Scott and Don and the guys, as far as, when we talk about bringing some fresh talent in and guys around there. I mean, I've been over in England quite a bit working for both, Defiant and for IPW UK. And again, that was really the first, that was really the beginning of this whole belt collector thing, right? Which wasn't really was never supposed to be a thing. But, working for these companies and talking creatively what they were talking about doing and finding this way to kind of, for these companies to collaborate and create something interesting and unique in the short term. There's a lot of great talent over there. Chris Ridgway and Mark Haskins, who's been with Impact before. I know I've already spit his name out of my mouth a couple times as far as a guy, who I'd like to see getting another opportunity. And and then there's just a lot, just again, what you see is young, hungry guys that are all out there and they love pro wrestling, and we want to create a place where they can come and showcase it.
Austin Aries again from NBC Sports Radio, Pro Wrestling 247 on demand. With the changing scene of professional wrestling and your collection of belts, do you think we may ever see that one champion representing the best of multiple companies with just one main championship belt again, a la the NWA World Title?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I don't think anybody 5 years ago would have predicted kind of where things are at now or where they're trending. So who knows where it continues to go? Someone had suggested to me, after how many belts am I gonna be able to carry them all? And maybe I should just melt them down and make one big one. And but who knows? That concept, it could happen, it could not. But right now, I think companies working together could foster something like that in the future. And obviously, right now, NWA is trying to make a resurgence, and who knows? Maybe at some point, 10 years down the road, they could bring themselves back up to maybe being something like that.
Austin, we have one final email question coming from Alex T. He wants to know, does Sami Callihan and his antics of late have you and others in the locker room looking over your shoulder?
I mean, I'm the world champ, so I'm always looking over my shoulder. And I always have to be in tune with what's going on. So yeah, I'm, obviously you're keeping aware of the antics of Sami Callihan, but listen, he did something that shocked a lot of people, and he didn't show any remorse for it, and he's using that opportunity to make a name for himself and make him recognized. And he's been doing this for a long time. He's been grinding away, and if this is what he needs to do to kind of stamp his name on the map, then that's what he's going to do. And whether I agree or disagree, I can't blame the guy, because this is this isn't an easy industry to have longevity and cement your legacy in. So he's taking his opportunity, and I have to pay attention.
Hey, Austin, it's James from the Wrestling Epicenter again. I actually was going to ask this question about a half hour ago. Probably would have been more timely then, but my question was going to be about when we were talking about moves that you wish you had invented. I remembered that when you had your match with Johnny Impact, there was a veteran wrestler who was, I'm not going to name names, I don't want to cause heat, but he was critical of a move you guys did on the apron, saying it's stupid and dangerous to do moves on the apron. Kind of wanted to get your take on that, and why do you think there is such a mindset of that I don't like that kind of stuff? You know what I mean?
Well, I can't speak for other wrestlers in other spots, but I'll just say this as far as I'm concerned. I'm out there to do my job, and I'm out there to win matches and perform and all those good things. But I would never do anything out there that would knowingly put my opponent at serious risk. You know, we all go out there and we hurt each other. That's part of the business. We don't go out there and try to injure each other so we can't go and put bread on our table. So I'd never compromise my colleagues like that because I have too much respect for them. So that's all I can say about that. As far as anything I do in the ring, listen, do I see guys that are taking unnecessary risks on certain spots? Sure. Do I disagree with it in certain contexts and in certain situations? Sure, I do. But I've been there too. So I think that there's a fine line between sitting there and trying to judge something from an armchair and deem what's acceptable and not acceptable, because until you're in the situation, it's a little hard.
Thank you.
All I can say, I'm always safe in there. I'm safe in there, and come here, Sean.
Hi, Austin. This is Mush again from wrestling-infos.de. My question is, Impact Wrestling has already been doing a show in Germany or a tour in Germany several years ago. Would you consider coming back to Germany or working for another German promotion like NEW or WXW? Would you consider going back to Germany or coming with Impact to Germany?
Yeah, I mean, I've personally had discussions about coming back over there. It's been a scheduling thing. Just haven't been able to make it work as far as scheduling. But I'd love to come back over there. I worked for WXW a number of years ago, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I think Impact would be looking to expand anywhere that made sense and where there's a fan base to go and run a show. And I think Germany would be included.
All right, thanks.
Hi, Austin. Ryan Bowman from thegorillaposition.com again. As you head into Redemption, how big do you think that this event is for Impact, and how big do you think it'll be for you personally? What do you think the fans can expect?
Obviously, it's important. I think every pay-per-view is important. This one might have a little extra importance to it, just being this first one coming back, and I'm excited for it. I really am. And I think that through all the crazy events or whatever happened, it's almost created more excitement and unpredictability to what's going to happen. So, I think this could be, hopefully for Impact, one of those events that we look back and go, this was definitely a moment where we said we're heading in the right direction, and we started gaining some momentum for that.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, Austin, I appreciate your time very much. We'll wrap it up with that question, but I do want to ask you two final questions. We'd be remiss if we didn't follow up on Stephanie's question for you, or comment to you earlier. What do you got planned for Sunday, April 15th? Not for tax day, for your birthday.
Oh man, we got a couple things planned out here. It's going to be a good time. We got some people flying in from different parts of the world and the country, and it's going to be a nice little celebration of the first 40 years of my life. And we're going to start it on we're going to start it on Saturday and roll it into Sunday, and it should be a nice couple of days of I think well-earned rest and relaxation. And it's nice to be able to kind of take a couple of days off when you need it, take a couple of days off when you want to recharge your body, your mind, and your soul. And I think that's what this weekend will do for me.
Birthday celebration on the 15th. Victory party on the 22nd for you.
I like it.
All righty. Final thought heading into Redemption, April 22nd in Orlando. You got Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix three-way match for the World Championship. Yeah,
I think again, everything in this business is about opportunity, And through circumstances, an opportunity has presented itself for Pentagon, you know, and Phoenix to step in the ring live on pay-per-view. Impact Wrestling World Championship. And that, again, a week ago, whole different ball game. Now that's what's happening. And it's exciting. And you know, I think that from what I'm seeing, what I'm reading, people are intrigued and they're going to be tuning in. And if you're on the fence about it, I'd say tune in and check it out because, yeah, it's going to be redemption. And I think everyone's going to walk out there with a little chip on their shoulder, some bigger than others, and also to prove themselves and kind of put our stamp on what this new Impact's all about.
Alrighty, Austin, I appreciate your time very much. Media, I appreciate you guys calling in. Next week we'll be back with another Impact Wrestling superstar, and I am trying to get one of the big names that I know you guys will all look forward to speaking to. Trust me on this one for next week. Again, thank you again for calling in. Austin, always a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Q&A session is over.